Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is games leaving the collection for the month of September. Or technically, because last month we had a slip up, things happened. This is for the month of September, which inherently means the game's leaving from August, but I'm just going to call it the month it is, and we'll go on from there. So, a few disclaimers before we dive into this. First of all, timestamps of everything down below. Secondly, as usual, regular reminder for the series, I play and go through a lot of games. Both as a hobbyist and as a content creator, I go through a ton of games on a regular basis. I go through hundreds of new games every single year, and you simply cannot keep all of those. To a certain extent, the default when I play a game is that it's probably leaving, and then some of the games are good enough to actually keep. In addition to that, there's also the games that slowly phase out over time in my collection, which basically means if you see games leaving that I recently reviewed and liked, yes, many of those will still leave. If you see games that you know that I've enjoyed having in my collection, over time, many of those will shift out. There has to be a degree of rotation just because I cannot keep everything and I have limited time. And so that's the nature of these videos. So just a regular reminder, because sometimes people see these and they're like, you're getting rid of so many good games. Yes. It's part of the parcel of what I do over here on the channel. But with that, and then last reminder as usual, I do give away some of these games over on Patreon. If you are a Patreon member, first of all, thank you very much. And secondly, if you're not a Patreon member, you can go ahead and become a Patreon member. These games are given away. I give away some at the lower tiers, and I give away more regular, more frequent at higher Patreon tiers. You're more likely to go ahead and get your hands on something if you join. A regular reminder there too, that if you are joining, do so ideally because you appreciate the content and you enjoy the channel and all those things, and that you're not going to get you're not likely to be getting your monies back, so to speak, by becoming a Patreon to get free games. It's kind of just an extra perk, but yeah. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's go ahead and start off. I have a bunch of things I'm getting rid of. This month's video will be heavily influenced by a lot of the Gen Con games that I've gone through, I've covered, I reviewed, and I'm moving on. There also will be interspersed in those some older games that are slowly cycling out of my collection, things that I just not tabling. There's a bunch more games I pulled off the shelf to get rid of, and then put back on because tabling or not, some games I think are good enough to hold on to for that hope of getting them tabled. Let's go and start off. We're going to start with several small box games. These are some quick and easy ones. We have Sleepy Cats, we have Rumble Jungle, we have How Dare You. Let's start with these three first and foremost. I've played through all of these already. These were Gen Con ones. I included them in a roundup reviews of like different party games and different small box. I don't think these ones I reviewed. These are two kid games from For Fun Games. They're the family version of CGS, the family division of CGS, Creative Game Studios. Rumble Jungle and Sleepy Cats. These are both fine. Sleepy Cats is about matching sides and speed-based matching side games, and Rumble Jungle is just kind of playing cards for their abilities. I didn't find either of these particularly compelling, unfortunately. I didn't enjoy them. I could review them, but the reviews would not be helpful. Past that, to be very clear, they wouldn't be helpful to them as a publisher, and I just don't think they're popular enough games for me to give you a helpful review on your end either. So they're gone, they're leaving, it is what it is. We also have How Dare You. This one is fun. It's a little party game. I enjoyed it. It's a bunch of trivia questions with a degree of trying to push your luck because you want to keep escalating the answer, so to speak. So let's say you say something like, how much ice cream, how many pounds of ice cream does the average human adult eat in a year? And the answer might be whatever, who knows? But the problem is I might say 3 pounds of ice cream. And someone else is like, oh, I think it's high. I think it's 5 pounds. And it keeps going round and around, but at any point you could be like, I'm not going higher, at which point you check the previous person's answer, and as long as it's lower than the real answer or equal to, then they win. So the goal is kind of escalating the answer until you bust by going over, but you won't know that until you check the answer. So it's cute, it's fun, I enjoyed playing it, but also I have better party games that I will play instead. Speaking of other party games to go, we also have Everything Ever over here. This is part of a roundup review that I did as well, with 3 party games, including How Dare You and one other, which you'll see in this video. Everything Ever from Floodgate Games. I enjoyed this to an extent. My biggest issue with it was that the nature of Everything Ever is you're saying everything ever. So you're like, I want to talk about all styles of hats, and I want to talk about all movies with Russell Crowe in them. I don't actually know if that's a card, but it's a good card. But either way, you're going to have these kind of categories, and then people can answer, and they can keep saying things because they're trying to compile everything ever. Sometimes some answers just run too long, so it's an intriguing premise to a game. I enjoyed it, but also do not need to keep it. From there, let's go ahead and jump to one of my games that's leaving the collection from being around for a bit. Like I said already, I'm going to intersperse these. We have Age of Galaxy over here. This is from Ice Makes, and they've made Age of Civilization. I love Age of Civilization. I should review it on the channel. I think it's an excellent game. I wanted to like Age of Galaxy, and I liked the premise of it, but the amount I got done in Age of Galaxy felt way too constricting. So, like, I do like Age of Galaxy-ish, but it felt too constricting for the amount you get done. But I would just recommend Age of Civilization instead. I'd recommend that as a great little Civilization, small box, very strategically heavy game. And I think Age of Galaxy was close to kind of hitting on that concept. I love the various role powers. This is close. It just felt a little too constricting for the engine at play. So ultimately this one is leaving. I should probably keep this band, but I don't want to, like, you know, knock this off because it's a nice box, so I'm just going to go ahead and deal with it as is. From there, we're going to go ahead and dive into Sobek, as well as Sobek 2 players, Treasure of the Pharaoh. This is an empty box. I can go ahead and get rid of that. Sobek over here. I incorporated into the base game over here. Sobek's from Panasaurus Games. This is the 2-player version of Sobek, which is originally a 2 to 4 player game. Been around for some time. Bruno Cavallo reapproached it, gave it a 2-player spin. Kind of similar to Splendor Duel to a degree. Ultimately, or Jaipur for the matter. It's similar to Jaipur as well. Speaking of which, we are also getting rid of Jaipur. Just a fun little fact. That's a coincidence. That's I don't know why that happened. That just worked out that way. But Sobek over here, we'll talk about Jaipur in a second. Sobek gives you a Jaipur style of trying to collect various goods and then turn around and sell those goods. That's the whole thing you're doing over here. Combine that with a degree of trying to figure out the exact puzzle of how the Ankh moves around the board. You're going to have this board and the Ankh's going to be moving around. You're trying to collect things. You're using character abilities. You're executing on sales. It's fun. It's fine. It's enjoyable, but doesn't particularly impress. It's a fun, fine, enjoyable game. Then over here we have Jaipur, which Jaipur is a kind of very similar idea. You're collecting various sets of goods to make sales. It's a fun back and forth, dealing with the navigational card row. I enjoy the tactical puzzle of Jaipur, I think, a little bit more. It feels very head-to-head. I mean, they're both head-to-head games by their very nature. Ultimately, and there's other games in this series as well. There's games like Jambo. Jambo, to me, is possibly my personal favorite. Jambo is still in the collection, at least for right now. But Jaipur over here, I like it. I think it's great. It's been around for a very long time in my collection. I've had this since... Wow. I've had this for a long time. A long time. Wow. 2013? Maybe? I don't remember if I put this... once upon a time, I did a video of the oldest games in my collection. I don't think I put Jaipur in that video, but I think Jaipur should have been in that video. Or I did put it in the video and I just forgot. But Jaipur I've had for a very long time. Times changed. The times, they are a-changing. Splendor Duel. I've had Splendor for a long time. Splendor Duel is a new find. Very excited about it. Enjoyed it. Played it a bunch of times. But ultimately, it's still Splendor. It has, similar to Sobek over there, Sobek 2 players, has a kind of grid where you're trying to gather tiles. Has same core concept of Splendor, but I think it is a little bit better balanced, and I enjoy it more than Splendor. But ultimately, it's still Splendor, and Splendor to me is a game system that I've played out enough that I've enjoyed the fun tableau building it gives you, and I'm ready to move on from it. Speaking of moving on, we also have Boomerang over here. I could have used that as a tangent to, not tangent, I could have used that as a segue into any particular piece. Segue is the wrong term. Transition. I could have used that as a transition to any of these games, but speaking of moving on, we're getting rid of Boomerang USA and Boomerang Europe. The Boomerang system is a fun little roll in my game where you're trying to collect various sets of cards, then mark them on the map, and you have a bunch of different objectives, and all the cards are drafting the cards, so I like drafting, but I like it. I think there's too many roll and writes that involve traveling and drawing on a map, and I enjoy those more. My go-to in that range is going to be Trails of Tucana and On Tour, if you want that. Boomerang has an edge over those in the sense that your cards are doing multiple things for you, but ultimately I still find those other ones more rewarding. The map phase of Boomerang, I find, and every one of the games is a little bit different, so there are differences to the versions, but I find the map phase to be just a little bit less rewarding as far as Boomerang goes. Then from there, we have Number Drop. Number Drop over here is going to be a roll in my game. This is part of a series of like 6 reviews I did. I basically put 6 games together in a video. Number Drop is fine. You can play this. It's a Tetris-y style game where you're dropping numbers into your grid. I like the concept of it, but I think ultimately it just felt a little bit more fiddly and a little less satisfying than playing something like, I don't know, what roll and writes would be equivalent to this. I'd rather play Explore and Draw. If you're going to play a polyomino-based roll and write, I would play Explore and Draw or Cartographers over Number Drop. So good from AEG. It's fun, but it's not one that I predict is sticking around for a very long time. I don't know. What's a long time? What does it even mean for a game to stick around? I mean, it is on BGA, which is going to help its longevity inherently, but like, I just don't see it being a super popular roll and write. It's fine. It does the job. Speaking of roll and writes that do the job, we have House of Cats over here. House of Cats is from Porta Games. This one is more compelling. I like this one more. A little more flavorful. You're drawing these shapes into your board. You're drawing, well, numbers into your board, not really shapes. You're making shapes after you draw them. You're also drawing rats and mice into your board, or mice and cats, or rats and cats, and definitely cats. Either rats or mice. Let me find out. Fill your house with cats, mice, and dice. Definitely mice. It rhymes with dice. That's so you know. So you're filling your house with mice and rats and dice number values. And so you're putting those in. There's 4 different scenarios, so they have a degree of rotation as far as the slight adjustment to the puzzle. There's different ability tiles that are in play every game, so it gives you a small degree of variability to the experience. Ultimately, like I said, I'd rather play Cartographers or Explorer of Cats Island Draw if I'm looking for a roll and write polyomino experience. And again, it's not strictly speaking polyominoes, but you do turn your rooms into polyominoes, sort of, so it has a polyomino aspect to it. Don't really know. We also have Alan and Bobby's Block and Guess. I did not like this game. I did not like it at all. I did not like it on the train. I did not like it on the plane. I did not like it with the ball. It has a ball as one of the pieces, and you probably should make a train or a plane as part of the car design. But I found this. I am curious. If you have played this game, if you have played Alan and Bobby's Block and Key, and you've enjoyed it, I would love to know, because it didn't land for me. It didn't land for me to the extent that I'm like, who did it land for? It landed for somebody. That's clear, because publishers don't just say any game gets published. Publishers work with you and they come up with something, and then along the way they're like, that looks like a good idea. And I don't know if they just say that looks like a good idea. Do they play it? I don't know, but some games I play and they're not for me, and that's fine. It is what it is. Other games I play and I'm like, who was that for? Who did it work for? In the case of Block and Guess, I'm assuming it works for somebody. I am assuming that. I'm so baffled at how poorly it worked for me, that, or should I say us, how poorly it worked for us, that I'm missing something. So I'd love to know, if you played this game and you like it, please let me know. Basically what you're doing is you have these random shapes, and then you are giving shapes to your opponent to craft things. So you have to like craft a trumpet out of random block shapes. It is impossible to really do this in any sense of like accomplishment. It kind of feels like you're just throwing together pieces and hoping for the best. Like, it'd be one thing if you could like choose the pieces, but you don't. Your opponent chooses the pieces. Your opponent's intentionally giving you the worst possible pieces to make a shape. And so it's kind of like, imagine how I have these 3 boxes over here, and I'm like, great, I have a choice now, okay? I have to make these boxes that I have. Let's make different shapes. We want different shapes. Okay, now we got a different shape, and you know what? For good measure, let's go ahead and grab a coaster. Okay, we got a coaster now, a little Flamecraft coaster, and boom, with these 5 boxes over here, I'm supposed to craft something. Now, you see the cards, you see what I'm supposed to craft, so you know that I'm either crafting let's look at the actual card. I'm either crafting a banana, a traffic light, a trumpet, a fountain, umbrella, a book, or a gavel. I'm going to secretly pretend it's one of them, so it's going to be okay, I have decided what I'm crafting, okay? So, I'm probably going to do this, aren't I? So I guess I could go like this, and then like this. Nope, like this, like this, like this. Okay? Like this. This is not going to work. This is going to fall over. If I can balance this. Nope. I'm not going to balance this. Okay. And then like this. Okay, let's balance. Perfect. No. The irony here. The irony is I'm kind of going to prove my point the reverse way. And then we'll just go ahead and do this over here because I don't want to mess things up more. So, I am either crafting a banana, traffic light, trumpet, fountain, umbrella, book, or gavel. Banana, traffic light, trumpet, fountain, umbrella, book, or gavel. Okay? Let me know which one. You are correct. It's a traffic light. I feel bad. I feel like that was probably the answer most of you got. But that is the easiest game I've played of Block and Key, and I've played multiple rounds of this hoping for something. I feel bad. I feel like I've lost my point because I've lost my way, because most of you probably guessed traffic light. So, play the game. Let me know if it works for you. Yikes. This is the problem with not editing, because I'm going to leave that in. Like I leave everything in. Anyways, moving on to the next game. So yeah, let me know about Block and Key. It didn't work for me. Hopefully it works for you or works for somebody else. Moving on, let's go ahead and pick one game from my side over here. This is Stellarion. This is hard for me to get rid of because it's part of a set. It's part of the Oniverse set. It's actually the most recent one in the Oniverse set. And to me, it doesn't have the same magic as the Oniverse set. I like it. In fact, what it reminds me of, if you've played the GIF series of games, it reminds me of Link. Okay, Link was a newer GIF game that I initially really liked, and then I realized over time that it kind of had parts of other GIF games in it, and the part that I liked the most was Tsar, which I had, so I eventually got rid of Link and kept Tsar. But I did like Link. I genuinely liked Link. I just felt that it kind of felt like that they had designed 5 games, came back like 5 years later and designed another game that felt like it had parts of the others in it. And that's kind of how I feel with Stellarion too. The Oniverse exists. There's 6 games in the Oniverse. 1 technically is a different publisher. I actually have never played that one. But there's Sylveon, Arion, Cassion, Naudion, and Onirum. Okay, those are the 5 games that I currently have in the Oniverse series. And Stellarion is the newest one, and it feels like it has elements of some of them mixed in. There's elements of Onirum in the sense that you have the order of the way doors are played and placed in thingies. There's elements of the others. I think elements of Arion in terms of the way you craft things, use abilities. There's different elements of different systems in play, and while I do enjoy Stellarion, I enjoy the other ones more. And it feels like hard to get rid of a series because I have the other 5. Like when I pulled this off the shelf, I was like, you know what? I think I'm comfortable getting rid of it. And then I looked at the other 5 and I was like, I like Sylveon, I like Arion, I like Cassion, I like Naudion, I like Onirum. But I feel like if I lost any of those, I'd be losing something that feels like part of the series. And if I get rid of this, I feel like I still have these series. Hopefully that makes sense. I think Stellarion is a good game. I recommend Stellarion. I just recommend other games. And this is the thing that's interesting too. Arguably, I rank Stellarion higher than some of the games. Like, I think I ranked this one higher than Nadion, I think. But the problem is Nadion feels very unique, versus Stellarion feels like it has elements of some of the others that I'm keeping. So Stellarion goes away, unfortunately. But that's, again, it's a good game. Good game. Let's go ahead and pick one more from this pile. We have another one over here. We have Sunset Over Water. This is a hard one to get rid of. I enjoy this game. This is from Pencil First Games, and it's a little collection game of, going out in the early morning and hiking and trying to gather scenic routes along the way. I think it's a very fun, very peaceful, very idyllic set collection experience. I don't pull it off the shelf as much as I used to when I first got it. I enjoy it. It comes off once in a while, but I think there are other idyllic experiences that are trying to maximize points that I tend to pick over this. Not necessarily direct comparisons, so to speak, but I think Sunset Over Water is a great game. It just doesn't necessarily get pulled off the shelf as much as I would like to. Speaking of which, we have a similar issue with Acquire. Acquire over here, this is the newest game in the series of, this is the newest version of Acquire from Renegade Games. I think Acquire is a great game. I had Acquire, I had the original Acquire in my collection for years and held onto it for a very long time. Eventually I got rid of it because I have Indonesia, and I think Indonesia gives you that stock merger stuff so much better, although Acquire is much more accessible. So it's not like Acquire has no space in their collection, but for me, I was like, you know what, eventually I played Acquire. I've probably played Acquire maybe 15, 20 times, which again, not necessarily the most, but enough so that I appreciate this game and I enjoy this game. But over here, this is the newest Renegade version. I've played it, I've reviewed it. It's still Acquire. Nothing's changed. It's a good version of Acquire. It's not the best version of Acquire. It's still a good, production-wise, it's still a good version. But ultimately, I don't need Acquire in my collection. It is a good game that I don't need to keep and hold on to. Then we have Spellbook over here. Spellbook from Space Cowboys. This is one of those ones that's a little bit hard. I've talked about this in a few videos. I think Spellbook would be a game I love with an expansion, but the problem is I don't hold on to games for that. I just don't want to hold on to a game for an undetermined amount of time for an uncertain outcome. And so if I have to pick up Spellbook down the road, I'll do so. I'll figure it out. As of right now, I think Spellbook is very solid. It's got, basically, you have 21 spells, so you have these 21 spells. You're going to choose 7 every single game from different color pools. So you have 3 white spells, 3 black spells, 3 green spells, etc. And you pick 1 from each color pool, and that crafts your 7 spells and the ways they all interact. The problem is the design space of the game only allows so much breathing room for how the spells interact and do things, which means Spellbook is totally fine. I appreciate Spellbook. I like Spellbook. I've enjoyed Spellbook. I want an expansion for Spellbook. But in the current base game format, it's a solid 3.5. It's a good game, but I think I've seen what it has to offer, and I get more out of other game systems that have powers and abilities and ways that things intermingle. From there, we have Luna Capital. This is one that's hard to get rid of. I love DeVere games in general. I think they have a lot of great games, and Luna Capital is certainly one of them. I think this is actually, I think I picked this one up a little before Gen Con last year, so I've had this in my collection for about a year now. And as much as I do enjoy it, as much as you'll consistently hear me recommend it in my recommendations at the end of videos, at the end of the day, I still find myself more drawn towards, and this is a bit of an asterisk here, more drawn towards Calico and Cascadia, and they all have very similar feelings to them, but I'm more drawn to Calico and Cascadia. I find those are easier games to table, and Calico and Cascadia consistently hit the table, and Luna Capital does not. And then the asterisk part is, for right now, I'm still holding on to Verdant as well. I still enjoy Verdant, and Verdant for right now is being held on to, even though I arguably prefer Luna Capital over Verdant. I'm not sure. The production value of Verdant is higher. The art, the graphic design, the tokens, it's a higher production value in Verdant, and those things do matter, especially if things are close. Luna Capital, I think gameplay-wise, I enjoy a bit more, but it's a little bit more fiddly. It's a little harder to teach and table. It's just a drop more. It's a little bit worse in some areas, although the strategy I think is better than Verdant. So Verdant, I don't know if it's a long-term keep or not, but I do know that Calico and Cascadia are long-term keeps, and Verdant for right now is still holding strong. Fit to Print, on the other hand, whenever that shows up, we'll see how that one plays out, because I'm curious about that one. And with that, let's go ahead and move on to Neotopia. Neotopia from Arcane Wonders. I enjoy this game. I think it's fun. I think I prefer Millefiori. Neotopia is a fun little pattern of trying to gather tokens into pools to create patterns and in a shared space, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a fun time. Millefiori does something very similar, but it's a little bit more interesting because Millefiori has like 5 or 6 different areas of the board, and each area functions differently. Neotopia has 3 areas of the board, and they all function the same. And so there are reasons why the two are very comparable in my head as far as the gameplay loop, and I do enjoy both, but Millefiori is the one that's going to stick around just because of that variability to the experience. Then we have Tucana Builders. This is one I was really hoping to really like because, as I mentioned already earlier in this video, I really liked Trails of Tucana. I think it's excellent. Tucana Builders, I also like. If they ever put this game on BGA, I will be there. I will be there playing this game a lot on BGA. Like, this is the kind of game, if it's on BGA, I'd already have 20 plays under my belt. It's a fun game. Genuinely. Why are you getting rid of it, Alex? Well, you should watch the review and then you'd know. But seriously, if you watch the review, the problem with Tucana Builders is the scoring. I found, and this might be a me problem, similar to Block and Key, which clearly is a me problem. Similar to Block and Key, I'm very curious if others have the same experience or not, because I just don't know yet. But for me, Tucana Builders, the scoring was obnoxious enough that it kind of undermined just how much I want to play it. Like, I was like, this is a fun game of trying to optimize my scoring and put tiles down, and just a fun little system. Is it amazing? Is it mind-blowing? No, but it's a fun, well-done system. Tracking the scoring is tedious and annoying, and I don't like it. So as soon as you have a board game arena doing it for me, I'll be here playing this game day in, day out. It's just fun and simple and accessible. But the scoring gets in the way, so there is that. And lastly, we have one that's been around for quite some time, which is Azul. Azul from Plan B Games. Azul is excellent. It's a tactical abstract strategy game. I prefer it most at 2 players, and the reason this one's leaving is, frankly, speaking of Board Game Arena, I find that I play Azul enough on Board Game Arena, and I think that the last time I pulled this out was over a year ago. No, maybe I think I pulled it out less than a year ago, but it was a while ago. Azul does not hit the table that often in my day-to-day, and I have so many games that fit. Like, if I enjoy this as a 2-player experience, which is where I enjoy it, I won't pull it out at 3 and 4. I'm willing to play it at 3 and 4. We can play your copy at 3 and 4. My copy, I play at 2. That's not like a firm rule. My point is I only volunteer it at 2 players, and I will reluctantly agree to play it at 3 and 4. And once you're playing a 2-player game, there's so many in-person 2-player games that are so good that I don't table enough that I think Azul, I'll get my Azul plays out of playing it online on Board Game Arena. One of the things I think Board Game Arena is excellent for is kind of learning which games to let go of, learning which games you are going to get your plays in online, and you don't need to have that game. Now, sometimes I love the game enough that I don't care if most of my plays are online, I still want the game. Azul's not in that category for me. Azul's a game that I enjoy. I like it. I think it's a solid. I mean, it's probably gone down for me over time. It's probably shifted to a 3.5 out of 5. But there was definitely a time where it was a 4 to 5. I think it's a very, very good game. I think it consistently gives you a good strategic experience, and it's just a lot of fun. But I play it on Board Game Arena enough. Like, I play it, like, I probably played it, I don't know, 30 times this year on Board Game Arena. That's a decent amount of plays, and I played it, like, maybe once this year in person. So, move over Azul, make shelf space for other 2-player experiences that are going to be more rewarding and not available online. And that's what we have over here. A bunch of games, a whole lot of Gen Con stuff that's slowly filtering its way out. Expect to see that again over the coming months. I mean, I'm trying to, like, rattle through those Gen Con games as much as possible and really put a dent in the pile, so I'm not looking at just how large a stack of games there are to cover. But as always, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I appreciate you being here. If you are a Patreon, expect to see this video popping up on Patreon with some of these games being given away. And until next time, I hope you have a good one.